G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to War Thunder with Mags, and welcome aboard the BF-109 G6. The G6 has been in War Thunder for about as long as I can remember. It is a fantastic aircraft, but one that I haven't featured on the channel in years, so I thought it was about time. The G6, of course, is rank 4, battle rating 4.7. It is in the Messerschmitt line, exactly where you would expect it to be, and one of its most notable features is the ability, when fully upgraded, to equip itself with triple 30mm cannons. Yes, that is 3 machine cannon 108s, that is 2 in the wing pods under the wings, 1 down the prop hub through the centre of the engine, and 2 13mm MG131 machine guns mounted on top of the engine cowling. In this particular configuration, the BF-109 G6 has an 11.95 kg per second burst mass, one of the highest of any fighter in the game, which of course makes it ideal for hunting bombers, which is exactly what it was designed to do. And there's my first kill of the match. But of course, we're not going to spend this entire video hunting bombers. In fact, most of the bombers have actually dived all the way towards the ocean and are currently trying to make a mad run towards the bomb sites on the Norway map, as generally happens. And fair play to them and good luck on their run. There's a swarm of Focke-Wulfs just waiting for them down there, so if they actually manage to bomb one of the bases, so be it, they earned their way there. Now, I'm more interested in trying to find fighters, which is why I've peeled off to the right, trying to find the side climbers that never seem to climb quite side enough on the Norway map. And there is our first potential victim, a Tempest 5. Now, the G6, as I mentioned before, is a 4.7 battle rating aircraft, but this is a 5.7 match. Tempest 5s, Griffin Spitfires, the works, D-Series Focke-Wulfs, all fun and games. So I pulled the G6 into the vertical, knowing the Tempest has a lot of power. It's able to climb very rapidly in a burst. Unfortunately, I didn't climb quite sharply enough. Manages to get some shots into the back of the aircraft, pops a hole in the fuel tank, which isn't too much of a concern just yet, but it will be. Norway is a big map. Pull back on the throttles to kill some airspeed and to set up for our dive, but I heard an engine note go past, so quickly snap the camera around, have a look around, and there are 2 F4Us that just buzz me. So I bought out of the dive on the Tempest. I've already lost too much altitude to do anything about the F4U that is at high altitude, however the low one is diving in on our premium Tempest that's currently engaging the British Tempest. I hate cross-nation premiums, and we are going to dive in and try and save him. And I never really see a lot of this. Generally people tend to stack on one aircraft in War Thunder Realistic Battle for some reason. If you see an engagement like this, try and attack the target that's attacking the swarm. It'll generally be isolated and you'll save members of your team if you manage to take them out. So anyways, had too much speed on to be able to stick right on the F4U's tail, but more than enough to manage to complete the Immelmann turn with no problems at all. Drop in on the back of the F4U, 1 test shot to guide the guns, and then boom, vaporize the F4U. 1 target down, tracer fire in from the back, take a light clip. It's a P-47N that snuck up behind me, so bank out hard and then split S back to drop on its tail. However, it goes head on with Focke-Wulf D and gets blown in half, but split S aims me right up for the Tempest. I lose my left flap for not retracting fast enough, but still rip the gun straight across the Tempest cockpit, and that is my 3rd kill for the match. So with the whole fuel tank down on ammo and a missing flap, I decided it's time for me to get the hell out of here. And that's when I spin the camera around just to check my 6 on the way out of the zone and spot a Spitfire Mark 16. Now, I'm in absolutely no state to be able to engage a Spitfire Mark 16 in a direct fight at the moment. However, the mini bases have survived the Allied bombing, and they do have some flak defences. Not really a lot, and they're not ideal for the purpose, but they should be enough to give the 16 something to think about, because he is sticking right on my ass the whole way through these hills. And with the current state of the aircraft, I can't outrun him either. Now, the other reason I'm heading in this direction is the aircraft that were looking to intercept the bombers, preventing them from bombing the bases, are still over here, and he just shot off my other flap. So now I'm down both flaps. Not that I would have been able to use just one in the first place, and he has probably balanced out my aircraft a little bit here anyway. So, just trying to weave here. My goal is to try and slow him down as much as possible, as well as keep myself out of his guns for long enough for either the AAA to give him a bit of a what for and get him to move out of the way, or for my allies to finally catch up, and it was my allies that arrived first. 2 aircraft dive in, spray, he breaks off hard left, I immediately begin to break off hard right. Now it's not over yet because my teammates didn't actually manage to kill him. I'm not even sure they managed to hit him, they just managed to break him off, and he still is very intent with killing my plane. So continue to follow him through a spiral, flatline it straight for the coastline. We're going to try and get into the hills underneath his Focke-Wulf 190 and hope that can provide a little backup. And that's when I see him go and start to engage the TA-152. And at this point I saw a bit of an opportunity, so throw the plane into a hard left bank. And you can see as soon as he saw me here, he broke off the TA-152, he's lining up to go head on with me, squeeze the guns, triple 30mm, and that's what you get for not putting me down while you had the chance. Kill number 4. Of course, at this point the plane is shot to shit. Both the flaps have been tore off. The radiator, oil and fuel tanks have all been holed. The aircraft's wings and fuselage are nothing but red and yellow. It has been ruined. Thankfully, there was enough for me to manage to limp this aircraft home, although I wasn't entirely sure it was going to make it. Getting across those mountains between where the mini bases were and where the German runway is was concerning. What was worse was when I arrived on the runway, however. The aircraft was just about to die. Without the flaps, it's very difficult to slow a G6 down. It wants to keep its speed up, and I didn't have enough ammo to cannon brake onto the runway. All I had was the 13mm and a few rounds left in the 30s. So I had to touch down at nearly 350 km an hour, and the runway on this map is very short and I was going to overshoot, so I had to gamble the plane here by twisting the aircraft sideways on landing, rip off the landing gear and belly drag it. Thankfully this wasn't a suicidal move and I get a 1 minute and 35 second repair timer, and the aircraft stopped with about 50 meters or so of runway left to spare. So about 2 minutes later, with the undercarriage folding back up into the aircraft, the G6 is back in the air, fully repaired, fully loaded and fully armed, ready for its final sortie in this particular battle. Unfortunately, there is only one aircraft remaining on the enemy team. It is a P-47N that is currently at 25,000 feet and climbing, and is currently engaged with 2 TA-152s. Now, honestly, I wasn't expecting to get there before this match was over. I figured the TAs would have been able to take him out. Still, I figured it was worth my time to spiral climb about 20 kilometers range from him at all times so he couldn't see me doing it, and slowly get myself back to altitude. And somehow he managed to survive the whole time. Now by the time I hit just under 30,000 feet, the 2 TAs disengaged. I'm assuming at this point that they'd burnt pretty much all of their fuel and they were heading back to the runway to refuel. I didn't have a chance to follow them the whole way, but that appeared to be where they were going. And speaking of fuel, that should give you a fairly good idea on how long it took me to climb up here. I am down to 9.5 minutes at this point, just starting to close on the P-47. Of course, with those 2 TAs disengaging, that leaves me alone with the final aircraft, all to myself, and at this point, well, the Allies are winning. Germany has lost more points, and if this drags out much longer, they will get the auto win. At this point, there is no reason for him to dive down to where the rest of our fighters are, and it is unlikely to have enough time left in the match for somebody else to get back up here to be able to engage him. So I need to either kill him, or we lose the match. And this is where things become even more complex. He's activated a battle order, so he can see where I am, but I can't see where he is at the moment. I'm assuming he is running, because at 30,000 feet, or at about this altitude, he's actually at his optimal altitude for performance. However, the optimal altitude for the G6 is only 18,000 feet. At this point, I'm 10,000 feet higher than this aircraft is designed to operate at. Now, of course, that means the P-47N is straight up faster than me, as you would expect, and this is without question. But it's also a match for my maneuverability. But more about that in a second. The P-47N wasn't actually running. He was turning around and coming back at me and having a bit of a sniff. Now, initially I thought he was going to go directly into a head-on, but it seemed he was more curious on exactly how I was going to react. So I lined him up, as I would. At this point, I can't afford not to engage. He is banked off, and as he nipped underneath me, I pulled the aircraft back to try and get some more altitude. I need the altitude at the moment to convert to speed for the next pass. Now, this is one of those situations where going head-on is really your only option. I don't like it as a tactic, as a general rule, but there are times when you don't actually have much of an option, such as when your plane is shot to shit and you're being engaged by an undamaged or nearly undamaged Spitfire. You may not have a choice. This is another one of those situations. At this altitude, My G6 does not have the manoeuvrability to be able to get on the tail of a P47N or catch one in a straight line. The P47N could catch me, but it doesn't have the manoeuvrability in general to be able to pull onto my 6 at this altitude. Our turning circles are almost comparable. There is pretty much no situation at this altitude without one of us disengaging that would allow the other to get on 1/6. So any combat engagement is going to have to be a head-on. There's just no other options at this point, unless one of us decides to back off. Now I'm not lining him up directly for the nose, I'm looking for the outer edge of his left wing. And good game, that is 5 kills, an ace match, and the completion of the match in total. So, let's go through to the results. Alright, so the results for the match. We got 5 kills and 1 death as a result of the valley landing, which was unfortunate but unavoidable. 3,486 points total for the team. We got ranked as not matter, double strike, soft landing, professional X5, shadow strike streak X3, final blow, terror of the sky, and balancer. 76,110 silver lions and 2,855 research points, which would have been 5,710 and 112,530 silver lions should I have had a premium account. Total match time was 26 minutes and 26 seconds, most of which was in the climbing, which I've edited out for the purposes of this video. The actual combat time was BogRoll. The game says 3 minutes and 49 seconds. I would say probably closer to 6 minutes in total that I was actually engaged with the enemy. The rest of the time was maneuvering around the map, getting into position to engage the enemy, or trying to disengage from the fight and position myself in a way that I can effectively re-engage and take out targets. This is something that I hear a lot of War Thunder pilots complain about, how long it actually takes to do this, but as you can see, it is an incredibly important part of how you fly realistic, and later on if you choose to progress to it, especially how you fly sim. Positioning the aircraft is everything. The fights are always short, and they were in real life. The average combat engagement in real life was only about 3 minutes. It's all about the setup. The better you can set yourself and the better position you can place yourself to engage a target, the more likely you are to eliminate the target, and the more likely you are to have a fantastic match. Rush in and don't position yourself, the more likely you are to become somebody else's prey. Anyways, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you very much for watching. As always, remember to hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more, and until next time, fly smart, fly safe, and I will catch you in the skies.